Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we are taking a look at what I watched in the month of September. And again, I'm going to put this video in a playlist with all the rest of the what I watched, a movie a day 2024 playlist, if you want to go back and watch any of those. But today we're just going straight through. We're going to jump right into it. Every video that I watched in September. We started the month off with The Happening. As you saw toward the end of last month and the beginning of this month, there's kind of a theme going on here with M. Night Shyamalan. So The Happening, I think I liked this more. This is the second time I've seen this movie. I think I liked it a little bit more this time than the first. But it's still not great. We're going to put this at a 1.5. And then we had Cuckoo. And this is one of those films that I was like really excited for. I guess I shouldn't say like super excited for it because other than the one kind of still image that was around for years, I didn't know much going into it, but I was really excited to see this. I heard Hunter Schafer was great in it, and it's okay. Not my favorite movie of the year so far. Put it at a 2.5. Then there was Fly Me to the Moon. Now this was one of those that I'd seen the trailer and it was in theaters, and at least where I am, it was in theaters for a long time, and so I just was never not into it, like interested in it. Didn't think I was going to go see it, and then there was a day that I was going to the theater. I was going to see a couple movies, and it just happened that this was one of the movies I could make work with my the showtime I could go to with my schedule. I ended up liking it more than I thought I was going to, but it still's only about like a 2.5. I think it's an average okay film. But I was really expecting it to be a lot worse for some reason, but it ended up being okay. And then went back to back Channing Tatum films with Blink Twice. There are parts of this that I think work really well, and there's parts that I really like. I just don't think it was all the way there. Didn't wasn't a complete experience for me, so we're just gonna go with a 3 star. And then we had Strange Darling, and this is a film that I knew nothing about really going into it. I knew it was a smaller film that was kind of surprising how many theaters it was in and how much it was doing at the box office. So I was like, oh, well, let me go, check this out. I ended up loving it, and it does a thing that I give it a ton of credit for, where it takes a really big kind of swing with the way the story's told. And at first, when it first started happening, I kind of scoffed at it and was like, it seems kind of not pretentious is the word, but just kind of seems too complicated or too weird of a way to narratively tell your story. And then as the story goes on, you realize why they did it the way they did it, and how revealing certain bits of information at certain time can suddenly just totally change the experience you're having. So I thought it was a lot of fun, and it's a film I'm excited to watch again when it's available on streaming. I think you can rent it, but I don't think it's anywhere streaming yet, as far as I know. But I'm excited to give it another watch. And then we've got The Last Airbender. Now, this is one of those that one of the big things on my channel is my Becoming a Better Cinephile series. I really kind of only do that with movies. If I were to do a TV show, I would put Avatar on there because I just have not seen it, and it's crazy to say that. But this didn't make me any excited to go and see this show, which is unfortunate because I do know I understand I should not compare them in any way. This is not the show. I get that, but it also like it doesn't do what it's supposed to do as a remake or as an adaptation of the source material, of making you interested in going back and watching the source material. So I think that's even without having my experience ruined because it's tainting something I love of the show, it still failed in what it was supposed to do as a remake. So I am going to put this down at a 1 star. Then we have I Used to Be Funny. Rachel Sennett is really good in this. It's still not my favorite kind of streaming movie that I've seen this year. It's okay. It wasn't. It does a thing, because with the title of I Used to Be Funny, there is some comedy, especially early in the film or in like the flashback scenes, but it wasn't as funny as I would have hoped it would be, and it's not as dramatic when it gets into kind of the more dramatic things. It's not as well done there for me. So I'm just going to put it at a 3 star because, again, I do think that a lot of it did work. It just wasn't kind of completely realized or wasn't like all the way there for me. Then we have The Village, and I have to think about this. I thought about, I think I mentioned this in the last, like, what I watched in August video. I think The Village is the first M. Night Shyamalan movie I ever saw, and so I don't know if this is part of like why I feel this way, but I'm putting The Village all the way up at a 4. Like I dig The Village, and I think this is kind of one of those films that in real time as the M. Night Shyamalan experience was happening, this was kind of one of those films where maybe it happened and people were kind of tired of just his twists and the way that he does his storytelling. But for me, again, I don't know if this is just because it's the first one I saw, but I like the twist, I like the premise, I like the setup, everything about it I think works well for me. So I really do like The Village. I'm going to a 4 star there. And then we have Beetlejuice, the original, which I hadn't seen. I want to say I remember there were times when I was in high school where like we had kind of like a little 15-minute period every day of kind of where you could do like homework or you could do stuff, but if you were caught up on everything you could just kind of go to a room and do something. You could go play basketball for a couple minutes, or you could go watch a movie, or you could go sing karaoke in the choir room. Like you could do something fun for like 15 minutes. And I remember in the gym where they played a theater, they were playing Beetlejuice like all the time, and so I've seen like 15-minute increments of Beetlejuice over and over, but I never saw the whole thing. It's okay. I'm going with like a 3 star. It's not my favorite. And then even with the sequel, Beetlejuice, it's I guess I'm not attached to the property. I'm not attached to the original in any way. So the second one, I've seen a lot of people. It's kind of a drastic difference. Some people love this a whole lot more than the original. If you didn't really like the original, but if people that hold the original in like really high regards, they don't think this is very good. I think it's pretty much on par. So gonna put it right next to the original. So we've got Beetlejuice right there. And then up next is Robot Dreams. Now this is was nominated for Best Animated Feature at last year's Oscars. And I have to say, I really wish I would have been able to have seen this like during the Oscar season last year, because this is right up there with Across the Spider Verse and The Boy and the Heron and Elemental. This is right up there in with all of those films, and I love it just as much as those. And it's just a shame that I had to go the entire, what has it been, 6, 7, 8 months since the Oscars that I haven't been able to watch this film. It's unfortunate that it took so long for this to finally be streaming, because yeah, I would have really loved to have been able to kind of champion it a little bit during the Oscar season. But we're gonna go with a 4 there for Robot Dreams. And then we have Praying with Anger, the debut film for M. Night Shyamalan. We're going to put this at going to go with a 2 here. And then I've done this thing the last couple years, where on any Friday the 13th, I've just been moving my way through the Friday the 13th series. So I think this is I guess I should have looked this up. I think this is the 4th film in the series, the Friday the 13th, the final chapter, which means there will be no more Friday the 13th, as far as I understand. That is what final means. We're going to put this up at a 3 star, and in a couple months when we get another Friday the 13th, the franchise will continue. And then we have After Earth. We're going to go with a 1.5 here, and you might be noticing kind of a trend down here at the bottom of this list. And then we have The Supremes at Earl's All You Can Eat, a film that I don't think a lot of people have seen, a film that I don't think fewer people have even heard of. And the only reason I'd heard of it was I was watching months ago, the Oscar Expert. They have their Best Picture, like year in advance type videos, and they go over like 50, 60, 70 films, and so this was on their list, and usually I'll watch those videos and I'll add those like to my anticipated movies list, and so it was just on there because of that. They're the ones that had said, that this might be a good movie. I knew nothing about it, and I was surprised to learn that this isn't about the Supremes that you might think it's about. And so I'm just gonna go with a 2.5. It's a very kind of over dramatic at times, and just not all the way there put together for me. I think that there is definitely a target for this film that might like it or appreciate it a whole lot more than I did, but gonna go with a 2.5. And then we have It Ends With Us. This is another one like Fly Me to the Moon. I had no plans on really seeing this in theaters, but again, it was another one of those days where it was on the discount day at the theater, so I was going to see a couple movies anyway. This was one of the ones that worked with the schedule where I could go see it, so gonna put it at a 3 star. I don't think it was as awful as a lot of people were kind of making it sound like it was going to be, before I saw it. But it's also not great either. And then we have Speak No Evil. Now, I knew that this was an adaptation of the original foreign language film, and usually I kind of like to, whenever there's like an adaptation or a sequel to something, I want to like have seen everything leading up to it. For some reason on this one, I decided to do it backwards. I decided to go see this one blind and then go back the next day and go find the original. I believe it's a Danish film. And so The first Speak No Evil, I could tell there was things that were kind of weird with it when I was in the theater, where there was a lot of things that I was like, I feel like this is just either a shot-for-shot remake, or they're just racing to get through all the things that the original did, but they're kind of leaving out some information. It just, the beginning of this, the first little bit of this film, it did feel a little odd to me. I'm gonna put it a 3 because I do think it was, by the end, it was competent and it was a good film, and I enjoyed it. And then I went back and watched the original, expecting it to be again like a shot-for-shot remake. And for a bit, it is like for the first two acts, a lot of it is very similar. But then both of these films have just drastically different endings. And so because that this came first, and I do like kind of the darker, grittier ending of this film a little bit more, I'm gonna put the original, the Danish film, at 3.5. And then we have Lady in the Water. This one, I think I'm also going to go with a 2, kind of continuing this theme going on down here at the bottom. Then we have Sinister. Now, this is a film that there's a couple films here that I think when you see where I place these, you might get a good indication of some future videos that may be coming. Sinister, we're throwing it all the way up at a 5-star film. Sinister 2 is not anywhere on the same level. I'm going to go with a 2.5. Sinister 2 was one of the more disappointing, I think, theatrical experiences that I've had. Because, again, this was kind of when I was, again, just kind of getting into movies a little bit more. Because I saw Sinister back when I was in high school, and I hadn't really. In the next video that I talk about Sinister, I'm going to talk about how that's the first horror movie that I'd ever seen. And then, Sinister 2 was kind of just this follow up, and I was kind of starting to get into movies, and I just remember being so let down during it. Rewatching it, this is the first time I've seen it since then, and it's definitely not as bad as I remember it being. Like, in my head, I remember this being like a 1-star. Like, I was so disappointed. It's not bad, but it is definitely, the expectations that I had for it were definitely not met. So we're going to leave it there at a 2.5. Then we have Wide Awake, and this one, I think we're continuing the theme here, putting that one down at a 2-star. And then we have His Three Daughters. This, on Netflix, it's a very kind of emotional, powerful film. Carrie Coon, Elizabeth Olsen, Natasha Lyonne, all excellent performances. So this is going to go all the way up at a 4-star for me. I was really, really impressed with this. And then up next, we have maybe the most fun entry on this list, and it is The Substance. This is another film that I didn't know anything about, other than I guess I knew it was Mubi was like the production company, so I was like, I knew it was a really small film, and I knew it was doing really well at the box office compared to like what everyone was expecting it to be. So I saw it once, loved it so much that I, for the next like 4 or 5 days, begged my friend to come see it with me because I knew he hadn't heard about it, so I begged him to come see it with me as blind as possible. And it's an insane movie for the experience of like you can see it once and it's awesome, and then if you show it to someone else, it feels like you're watching it again for the first time because you can feel how awkward and uncomfortable they are experiencing it. So it was a great time. I loved The Substance, so I'm putting it at a 4.5. And then I had heard of Revenge, which is the director, and I'm sure I'm going to butcher her name here, Coralie Farget. Her directorial debut, I had heard of it from a couple years prior, hadn't seen it, so decided I was going to go back and watch that as well. And it's okay. It's another one of those where I think some things work, but I also think it's kind of a thin premise that is stretched out very far, and so maybe if it was a little bit short of a film, or there was maybe more leading up to kind of the events of the film, so it's not just kind of one concept stretched for a very long time. And then I guess I loved the ending, but I didn't love kind of the final maybe 10-ish minutes leading up to the very last little bit. So it's going to go here to 3 because it was good, but just not my favorite. And then we have Moneyball, which I watched this on the day of the last home game in Oakland at the Coliseum, which is a tragedy. The Oakland A's, they belong in Oakland. Moneyball, we're putting it up at a 5-star. And then we have, kind of coming down here these last little bit, kind of the entire idea for what this channel was and is supposed to be, especially my Becoming a Better Cinephile series. I want to go back and I want to watch these classic films, the all-time greatest films that I just have not seen. And so that's what we've got here with the Godfather trilogy. Now, I will. This is one of those that I think, especially when. I mean, the easiest way, let's just do it. The Godfather, I'm putting it at a 4 star. And so I think you're going to look at this and you're going to see the substance. You're going to see Sinister and you're going to see Moneyball ahead of it. And the way I think films and like rating films, a lot of it is subjective to like you and subjective to kind of like your experience or how you watched it. Like, obviously, it's a great film and it deserves, it's like it's a 4 star, it's, and obviously for a lot of people it's 4.5, it's 5, it's, the best film ever made for a lot of people, and so but it is just one of those that for me that I just kind of have personal attachments to those other three films a little bit more than I did with The Godfather. I will say that The Godfather is one of those films that there's a lot of films that you watch and you can tell pretty much instantly that you're never going to see it again. I think The Godfather films, I definitely am going to watch these again at some point later on in my life. And so I do think that these are films that the more you watch it, the more it sits with you, the more you analyze or dissect it, and the more time you kind of spend with the film, I can see how they can become films that you can become very attached to, and they're films that just kind of just get better the more and more you think about them. But for now, we're just going with a 4, and then going with a 4 again for The Godfather Part 2. And then third, I didn't watch The Godfather Part 3. I watched the Godfather Coda, The Death of Michael Corleone, and I did it because I Googled, because I saw that there was like a not a re, it's not like a, I don't even know if it's really a director's cut, but I guess it is. But it's just kind of they put it, they kind of cut some scenes, or they did some things differently. They kind of changed the order of some scenes. I don't know exactly all that they did, but they just kind of re-released it in 2020. I think it was 2020, but a couple years ago they re-released it, and it's like 10-15 minutes shorter. But I googled before I watched it, like, which should I watch, because I think what I remember was reading some quotes from Francis Ford Coppola saying that this was always kind of the vision he had for the film. So I don't know what's different about the original film, how that differed from the final product, or what we got here with Coda, The Death of Michael Corleone. But I think a lot of people kind of hated this film. Like, that I when I went in, I was expecting it to be like down here compared to how I hear some people talk about the film. I think it's okay. Like, it's definitely a step down from the first two, but it's not like such a drastic step down. There's really only kind of one thing, which is, unfortunately, Sofia Coppola's acting is kind of the one thing that it's kind of really stands out and makes you think like, oh, that's why people hate this. But that wasn't bad enough to like where I was gonna, just tank the whole film. Like, it's definitely, it's still a good film. And I don't know, maybe if the reason I still feel that is because then the next day I watched Francis Ford Coppola's Megalopolis, and that does belong down in this area where I thought that The Godfather Part 3 was going to go. But so there are the ratings. So now let's get to the ranking. All right, and so then for the ranking here, we're going to leave The Last Airbender by itself at the ones. Um, and then I think I leave it like that. I think it goes after Earth, and then goes The Happening. And then in this 2-star category, I think just for how like beautiful it does look, I think I will put Megalopolis like at the top of the twos, because I do think there was a lot of things that did work really well for it. And then I think we go Lady in the Water, Wide Awake, Praying with Anger. Probably the order there of the twos. The 2.5s. I think The Supremes at Earl's All You Can Eat probably at the bottom. I mean, I think it's like that. I think I go Cuckoo, Fly Me to the Moon, Sinister 2, and then the Supremes at Earl's All You Can Eat. Then the 3 stars. This is where we have the big clump here. Let's go with... Oh, wow. This is... I think I'm going to go with Revenge as the top of the 3s. Then maybe Blink Twice. Actually, maybe let's go Beetlejuice. Blink Twice. I Used to Be Funny. Also, I had the feeling I might do this. That is Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice is poster, not Beetlejuice's. So let's go with that. So Revenge, Speak No Evil, Beetlejuice, Blink Twice, I Used to Be Funny, Beetlejuice, Friday the 13th, and then it ends with Us. Yeah, I think that's the order. That looks right. So we're going to leave that there. Then the 3.5s, we're going to go with The Godfather, Coda, The Death of Michael Corleone, and then The Danish Speak No Evil. In the 4 stars, and this is where we're not going to get too crazy, we're going to go with The Godfather. And I think a lot of people like The Godfather Part 2 better than the original, but I think I liked the original more. And maybe that's something that I think on future rewatches, maybe I'll fall in love with the sequel a little bit more. But we're going to go with The Godfather Part 2. I think we go Village, um, Strange Darling, Robot Dreams, His Three Daughters, I think is the order there. And then we've got The Substance by itself at a 4.5, and then up top we're going to go Moneyball and then Sinister. So that's it. That is the ranking and the rating there for each of these films. Let me know any of these films if we have very drastic opinions on some of these. I'm sure if there are drastic opinions, it's got to be The Godfather. I'm sure that's going to be the main discussion for this month. But again, I do reserve the right in the way that I do a lot of my. These are not obviously not concrete. I could watch The Godfather again in a couple weeks and just completely change my mind. But for now, this is where we're kind of leaving it. This is the ranking. So yeah, just let me know what your thoughts are on some of these films, or just let me know what some of your favorite first watches, or just any films that you saw, I guess, in the last month. What some of your favorite films are and how you would rank them. And again, thank you so much for watching this video. Hope you guys have a great day.